back to my channel. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to sew a crop wrap top, and for that I'm going to be using this fabric here. I think it's about 1.5 yards of Akara fabric, and it's going to have a puffy sleeve with a cuff at the end. So let's get into the video. The first thing I did is to fold my fabric into two, and then the next thing you're going to do is to check the width. So the measurement I'm working with is bust of 42. So 42 divided by 4 is going to be about 10.5, right? 10.5 plus 1 is plus half an inch for ease, right? That's going to be 11, and then plus extra 1 inch for the seam allowance, that's going to be 12. So 12 is what I have as my width here. The next thing you're going to check is the length you want. So I want the length to be 17. So I'm going to add about half an inch for the seam allowance on the top to attach the two shoulders, and then I'm also going to add about 1.5 to fold the end. So that's 2 inches added. That's going to be 19 inches total. So 19, I added 2 inches extra for my seam allowance. So I'm going to mark here the shoulder. So 19 inches is what I'm working with. So the fabric right now is 19 inches by 12 inches for me. So the next thing you're going to do is to check the shoulder. The shoulder I'm working with is 17 by 2 is going to be 8.5. So I'm going to come down here, and then you mark your armhole. The armhole I'm working with is 20 divided by 2 is going to be 10. So I'm going to mark that here, then go up this way, then come down by 1 inch on this line for the shoulder slant. Coming this way, mark about 3 inches. You can go by 3.5 if you want the neck a little wider. So I'm going with 3. So I'm going to mark that here. Come down by about half an inch or so. No, about 1 inch. So come down by 1 inch here, and then you mark your neck slant here. So the next thing you're going to do is to connect this point here to this shoulder slant, and then halfway through this, so right now I have 9, halfway, which will be 4.5, you mark your slant here, right? And then the next thing you're going to mark here is, we've already determined what the width is going to be, which is the bust measurement, and that's when you come down by 10 inches, right? 10 inches length, that's where you're going to check the bust. I've already said my bust measurement 42 divided by 4 plus extra 1.5 inch. So that's what I have here, giving me 12 inches. So you come down to the waist. The waist measurement I'm working with is 34 divided by 4 is going to be 8.5, right? So I marked 8.5, and then you're going to add extra half an inch for ease, and then 1 inch for your seam allowance. So that's going to be about 10 inches here, and then I'm going to connect it. So that's basically it for the back panel. So for wrap top, most of the time you cut the back panel before you cut the front panel. So guys, the next thing I did is to fold the fabric into 2 again, and then take my back panel, place it on the fabric, right? Make sure I have about, for me, I'm using like 5 inches here, or almost 6 inches here. If I move it closer, it's about, it should be, yeah, 5.5 inches is what I'm going to be using for this center part. So what you're going to do is, from here, you could actually just put this way, put the back panel this way, and then use from this point here, the point of this shoulder, this notch here, and then make a mark up to this point where this line for the length of your top stops. Or you can just go this way, take your back panel, fold it this way, right? So I'm going to use this to determine how much V I want my neckline to have. So I think I want it deeper than this, so I'm going to fold it this way. Fold the back. So you see, this is your back neckline here, right? So this is the back neckline. This is the center of the fabric here, the center of the back here. So what you're going to do is from this point of the neckline here, you try to push this one in, the back panel, push it in this way, fold it in, and then try to make an angle with it, right? So I've made the angle. So this is what I'm going to be using here. I'm going to be using this much for it here. So guys, I folded this way, and I've seen what the amount I want to use here. But another way you can do it is like check the 2 inches that you're 1.5 that you left to fold the bottom here, right? So that is about, I've marked it here, and then I also added extra 2 inches for the belt, right? No, I'm going to make the belt 2.5 inches, so that's this line. So my angle is going to start at this point. So what I'm going to do now is to, because I don't have a ruler, so what I'm going to use is this, the neckline of this here, and then connect it this way, right? If you use a ruler, then the neckline will be straight, but you don't want it straight. Sometimes you want it to go almost like it's going deep this way, like curve this way. If you want a little bit of bust to be out, or you can just go straight, and then like the narrower this point is, then you know the top is going to be close together. But if you go in and slant the line almost this way, then you have more curve and more opening to the neckline. So this is the neckline at the back, right? So let's say you go this way. If you push your hand in, then you see you have more curve, and it will show a little bit of cleavage. But if you go straight, like let's say you go straight now, you see you're covering up more. So that's what I'm trying to explain. So what I'm going to do now is to connect from the point that I marked to the neckline. So guys, I've gone ahead. So after that, the next thing you're going to do is to trace out the rest of the top. So I went ahead and traced out everything after cutting the neckline. So this is what it looks like at the moment. So if you want the neckline even deeper, go in more, but I think this should do for me. So basically it will look something like this when you're done, right? It should look something like this then with the row. So now I'm going to cut out the sleeve. So guys, this is what I'm going to be using for the sleeve. So the length of the sleeve is supposed to be like my arm length, not really the length of the sleeve. That's from my shoulder to my wrist here is 23 inches, right? So the 23 inches, I still have to put in a 2 inches curve at the end here, right? I'm still supposed to have 2 inches curve here for the end of the sleeve. So how you're going to get this curve, first of all, is if you want to use 2 inches, 2 inches is about this length here, this length as your curve, right? So let's say you want to use this length as the curve. Then what you're going to cut out is about 6 inches length here. So what you're going to cut out is about 6 inches, right? So that when you fold it to attach it to the sleeve, at the end of the sleeve, you're talking about ½ an inch on top here, and then ½ an inch on the other side too. So when you're talking ½ an inch on each side, then you'll be left with about 2 inches. That's 2 inches on this side, 2 inches on this side, making it 4 inches. So that's what you're going to do to get the curve. And then it depends on the sleeve, your wrist. You can add about 1.5 to it, and then your seam allowance. So that's how I got the length. So because if you make it exactly your wrist, then you can't be able to pass your hand through it. So it's better to add about 1.5 to it plus extra 1 inch for your seam allowance. So that's how you get the curve. So I'll set the curve aside. So we've already said the curve is going to be about 2 inches, right? So my arm length is 23. So what I'm going to do now is mark from my shoulder, mark my sleeve cap. Just the normal way I mark my sleeve, right? I came down by 4 inches, mark it this way. The width I'm using here is about 18 inches divided by 2, that's 9, plus 1, which is 10. And it also goes the same for my armhole, which is 10. Then the next thing I'm going to mark for my sleeve here, right? Right, so this is the top part here. So how you're going to determine the length you will use is, you know, when you're making a puffy sleeve, you have to give room for in the length for the puffiness, because there's no need of making a puffy sleeve and you're making it straight tight this way. Then the puffiness only comes by the width. You also need to add a few inches to the length so that when it puffs this way and then you add the curve, it also puffs this way too. So I added about, so that's how for me. So the sleeve length and my arm length is 23. So the 23, if I remove 2 inches from it, which is the cuff, that's going to be 21, right? So the 21 I have left now, I'm going to add about I'm going to add half an inch for seam allowance of attaching the top part here, half an inch for attaching the cuff into this. So that's already 1 inch gone, and then extra 1.5 inch for the room, for the puffiness of the sleeve. So that's basically, I added 2.5 inches. So 1.5 is for the room is at the length, and then the other extra 1 inch is for half an inch for attaching the bottom to the cuff, and then half an inch for attaching the top to the shoulder. So that's basically it. So now I'm going to trim off this, and this is my sleeve here. So guys, now that I've cut off this part and this is my sleeve, what I'm going to do now is to notch this end here, right? Notch the end of this sleeve here. If you have a stay like if you have a stay, the white thing, you go ahead and iron it into this here, but I don't have. So what I'm going to do, and I don't like to use it because it makes it thick and the weather is too hot for that. So I just go ahead and fold my fabric this way and then fold it this way, right, and iron it down, right? Fold in the extra half an inch that I left in, iron it down here, and then fold this way, right? Then close it up and iron it back again. When I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to do is to fold it into 2, mark the center, maybe with a chalk, right? Mark the center, like fold it into 2 this way now, mark the center. By now you've ironed it, so what you're going to do is take the end here. This is my center where I marked the chalk, right? This is the center, and then place it here, put in your sleeve, like tuck in the end of this sleeve, the half an inch that you left, because remember this is our sleeve. I'm just trying to show you how you're going to put in the cuff of the sleeve. Then you start to gather it, pull it together, gather it into this here, gather it as you go, and then make a stitch. Like if your sewing machine is here, you just keep sewing and then keep pulling it together until you get to the very end here. Just keep pulling it together, and that's how you're going to tuck in the whole thing. If you want your cuff wider at the end, right, if you want the sleeve, like what you're going to tuck in wider at the end, what you're going to do is, instead of cutting your sleeve straight down this way, you can just put in your hand this way and go even wider, right? Just make it even wider instead of going, because as you can see here is straight this way, but you can open up and just make more room. That way you have a wider range here, and then you still tuck all of them into the cuff. That way you have a lot of balloon at the end here. So I'm going to go and put my top together. Guys, this is what it looks like at the moment. I used a bias to finish up this end all the way around, all the way to this part here, and then I also attached the belt. So basically I cut about 5.5 inch of a piece of fabric, folded it, and then sewed it and flipped it inside out. Also guys, I thought I could get away without adding a dart to this, but when I wore it, I figured that I needed a dart because this end here was just open. So I went back and then I added a dart at the back, 2 at the back, and then 1 here. although I didn't leave any seam for the dart, but it didn't matter because it's a wrap top, so adding a dart won't take away from the inches. It still tied in and it still looked nice. So I added one dart in front for the bust, one on this side too, and then two at the back. The sleeve here, I finished the cuff, I finished this the other cuff too. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Bye.